What is this deeper level exactly? As time went on, I began to realize it was a middle space between these two more obvious dimensions of ministry. All of us have a doctrinal foundation, a set of theological beliefs, and all of us conduct particular forms of ministry. But many ministers take up programs and practices of ministry that fit well with neither their doctrinal beliefs nor their cultural context. They adopt popular methods that are essentially glued on from the outside, alien to the church's theology or setting, sometimes both. And when this happens, we find a lack of fruitfulness. These ministers don't change people's lives within the church and don't reach people in their city. Why not? Because the programs do not grow naturally out of reflection on both the gospel and the distinctness of their surrounding culture. If you think of your doctrinal foundation as hardware and of ministry programs as software, it is important to understand the existence of something called middleware. I am no computer expert, but my computer-savvy friends tell me that middleware is a software layer that lies between the hardware and the operating system and the various software applications being deployed by the computer's user. In the same way, between one's doctrinal beliefs and ministry practices should be a well-conceived vision for how to bring the gospel to bear on the particular cultural setting and historical moment. This is something more practical than just doctrinal beliefs, but much more theological than how-to steps for carrying out a particular ministry. Once this vision is in place, with its emphasis and values, it leads church leaders to make good decisions on how to worship, disciple, evangelize, serve, and engage culture in their field of ministry, whether in a city, suburb, or small town. Theological vision. This middleware is similar to what Richard Lentz, professor of theology at Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary, calls a theological vision. According to Lentz, our doctrinal foundation, drawn from Scripture, is the starting point for everything. He says, theology must first be about a conversation with God. God speaks and we listen. The Christian theological framework is primarily about listening to God. One of the great dangers we face in doing theology is our desire to do all the talking. We most often capitulate to this temptation by placing alien conceptual boundaries on what God can and has said in the Word. We force the message of redemption into a cultural package that distorts its actual intentions. Or we attempt to view the gospel solely from the perspective of a tradition that has little living connection to the redemptive work of Christ on the cross. Or we place rational restrictions on the very notion of God instead of allowing God to define the notions of rationality. However, the doctrinal foundation is not enough. Before you choose specific ministry methods, you must first ask how your doctrinal beliefs might relate to the modern world. The result of that question thereby forms a theological vision. In other words, a theological vision is a vision for what you are going to do with your doctrine in a particular time and place. And what does a theological vision develop from? Lentz shows that it comes, of course, from deep reflection on the Bible itself, but it also depends a great deal on what you think of the culture around you. Lentz offers this important observation. A theological vision allows people to see their culture in a way different than they had ever been able to see it before. Those who are empowered by the theological vision do not simply stand against the mainstream impulses of the culture, but take the initiative both to understand and speak to that culture from the framework of the Scriptures. The modern theological vision must seek to bring the entire counsel of God into the world of its time in order that its time might be transformed. In light of this, I propose a set of questions that can guide us in the development of a theological vision. As we answer questions like these, a theological vision will emerge. What is the gospel, and how do we bring it to bear on the hearts of people today? What is this culture like, and how can we both connect to it and challenge it in our communication? Where are we located? City, suburb, town, rural area, and how does this affect our ministry? To what degree and how should Christians be involved in civic life and cultural production? How do the various ministries in a church, word,